Guys, going to the gym pretty soon, and let's see here. Right. Test one, two, three. Okay. Gonna discuss a couple of mental models. Most of my posts I wrote them today. I'm in a biohack state, and yeah, ideas come easily. That doesn't mean that I'm feeling great and I'll speak amazingly today. I listen often to my own videos, and I'm like, yo, I speak way too slow. I mention ums and ems and these kinds of things. So working on improving that. By the way, if you have any tips for me on that, you can leave them in the comment. But let's start with the biohacking stuff. Flow state is really important for me. Flow state is how I write these posts, how I get creative, right? I often talk about creativity, and I believe that it's a human mode. I don't think AGI will catch up anytime soon to creativity. Creativity is self acceptance state. It's at the top of the pyramid in terms of feeling. It's like you have so much in you, you're doing so well that you can radiate and you can explode with value. And that state of creation is somewhat hard to achieve for many. A lot of people, they just think they aren't built that way. Well, I'm here to reassure you, to tell you that it's definitely not genes. It's something that I'm imposing on my own self. It's something that any human can create. The main tip for biohacking is probably caffeine. Like I mean, I'm quite sensible to caffeine. Some people don't get high much on caffeine, but yeah, like caffeine, it will get you in the state. So 60% of humans drink coffee, but I guess, yeah, like most of them don't realize that they're in a flow state. So consciousness is also important. But most importantly, there's other biohacks that people don't know much about. Obvious ones include physical activity, like the post workout high or the runner's high, for example. In my case today, it's been cold plunges, saunas, supplement. So, for example, cold plunge, you can buy like a bath on Amazon. Cold plunges, you can Google them, and probably some of them cost like $100 or $200. Then you buy these huge water jugs and you put them in a freezer. So you need to have a big ass freezer, right? You wait probably one full day, and this full 10-liter bottle of water has become ice. Um, you fill your cold bath with water, and you throw these humongous blocks of ice in the cold plunge, and there you go. The water is really cold. You sit in there. It's going to be brutal at first, but then you get used to it around minute one or one and a half. And ideally, you have a sauna nearby. Sauna, you can also buy one on Amazon. It's like a vapor machine, and it's cost 200, $300. And you alternate hot, cold, then that will get you in the state. So flow state is quite important because, yeah, when it comes to content, and I believe one of the lowest hanging fruit in this day and age is to produce content, be a thought leader, and just constantly suggest mental models to people. If you chip enough times at the block, yeah, eventually you'll get somewhere. Um, I'm not saying like become a fucking TikTok influencer. I think that's selling your soul. It's like pure entertainment, no education. Your brain will shrink and you will lose long term eventually, although you will make good money. If you have like 23 million low IQ followers, you'll make a shit ton of money. You'll probably make a couple millions per year, but that's not really what you're aiming for. You want to go with solid mental models and, yeah, diversify the boxes you check. You don't want to just check the money box, right? So becoming a B2B influencer, quote unquote, and thought leader, a la Charlie Munger, but in or modern times, is probably the way to go. You want to stick with the truth as well. You don't want to go into corporatisms and become a corporate, right? You want to stick with the truth and always go with the first goal of improving your own intellect. And if you do that, and if you stay honest and you A/B test enough times, you'll be able to add value to others. So to do that, my main hack is biohacking. It's not like I am reading a ton of books or following a bunch of people. I used to do that, but yeah, it comes naturally. So I have the podcast, I have my life, I brainstorm with a bunch of CEOs and founders pretty much all the time. So I've got the data, right? And from there, it's like, oh, how do you synthesize it? How does the seed become a tree? Well, biohacking. So, for example, when I go at the gym, right, I have a bunch of ideas. I write them down, and it's a simple line message that I send to myself or notes app on the app. So that's my first mental model of the day. Second one, which I thought my audience would find somewhat relevant, is once you crack the lead gen code, which is somewhat very fucking hard. In my case, it's been 100 meetings per week. It's probably the top 0.1%. I don't know anyone that ever generated that much meeting on a weekly basis. Well, you need to crack the closing problem. The closing problem is really hard as well. It's a very long march, right? The lead gen problem, it probably took me, let's say, 6 years to crack, and I expect the closing one to take me at least three. Now, I'm not going to talk only about closing people because that's dumb, It's like the old ways of selling, like the Russell Brunson, Grant Cardone way, who's got my money. That's going to bring you to the ground. It's not going to scale, especially not in the age of AGI, which brings me to my next point, and we'll have some points of the ulterior point that I made, which is always add value all the time on all platforms, right? Like the most times you can add value to someone that's already in your pipeline. So let's say that you already had a meeting with them and want to close the sale. Well, always add value to them. And also, even before we get to that, make sure they're your ICP, Don't sell someone that you don't like. I mean, if you don't share the same value, if you're not aligned, like stay the fuck away from them. Don't try to close them. A lot of people make that mistake, and all that will do is like give you a couple of grands in your bank account, but it will actually slow you down in long term. It will catch up with you. So try to work with your very best ICP, ideal customer persona. And then, yeah, once you know that they're good for you, you'll want to follow up with them. Newsletter, LinkedIn. In my case, I use this app called Opus Clip, and I clip all my podcast content or this video, matter of fact, into smaller clips, right? And then I publish them on YouTube Shorts, TikToks, and X. I won't sponsor these clips because I don't want to attract the clientele that is native to these platforms, especially TikToks. I just don't want like low IQs to see my shit. They'll hate for sure. They won't understand. So it's more like people that I had on my podcast, they share with their audience. Their audience was on TikTok, let's say. Maybe they're B2B influencers like myself or just curious about the platform, and then they'll follow me there. So that is my whole content strategy. So once I actually meet with someone, and even before I meet with them, they'll already see me on a couple of platforms theoretically, especially on LinkedIn, right? They'll send me a friend request, they'll check my content, and they'll see if we're made for one another. And then the more value you add to their glass, right? Like the more you fill their glass with value, once the glass overflows, that exceedant is people paying you with their hard-earned money. So that's my theory on follow-ups. It's not about forcing a close. It's just like constantly adding value to someone. And it's quite simple. That person has a bunch of cash, right? They want to invest that money to produce more cash, and they view you as a good source, probabilistically speaking. Okay, I'm investing in Charles. There's like a 65% chance that my money will grow itself. VS Don right there, there's a 30% chance. And Alfred, there's 5% chance that I'll ever see my money again. So I'll choose Charles for sure. And that is a thorough algorithm. Most people have thorough algorithms. Now, me, I'm an odd bird, and I really want to work only with my best ICP. So I make pretty much everything in my power to them to discard me and to not like me, or to have a red light flash or something. Like I am unapologetic. I believe that people that go for truth will scale for a very long time, while people that have defectuous mental models, I don't think I'll see them around. And me, I'm all about the future, right? Maybe I should talk also how I biohack colds, because I caught a cold last weekend doing my Spartan Ultra. But yeah, I will do everything. Every piece of content that I sent is brutally honest, and I don't mince my word. So if they see something that they don't like, which is a mental model in itself, like me, before I judge someone, I will wait for a bunch of pieces of data on them over time, right? I'll wait for my own digestion of that data before I make a conclusion on them. So let's say that I posted a piece of content that they didn't like. Fine, they just discarded me. That's perfect, right? I won't have to deal with their defectuous brain in 2 months from now, in 2 years from now, in 2 decades from now. I'm really seeking people that are very close version to what I am, or at least in mental models. That doesn't mean like they won't challenge me on anything, because that's one of my mental models, right? Like, you need to challenge one another as business partners, right? I mean, Charlie and Warren, the most successful investors of our time, richest people in the world, rest in peace, Charlie, used to challenge each other all the time. They used to debate each other, and debating one another, um, not like you see in political races, is the best way to get ideas and to test out the thesis to see if it's a good thesis, if it's right or wrong, right? So, yeah, I am seeking people that are at least 85% aligned with most of my values and the check boxes that I put forward, including being a good human being. And that way I can still work with them in 2 decades. And imagine, once you know someone for 2 decades and you have multiple wins of multiple millions with them, what kind of projects you can make happen, right? So yeah, I believe in that very much. But obviously there could be flaws in this mental model of mine. The other point, I mean, yeah, I always talk about mindset in entrepreneurs, and I reflected on the entrepreneurship race, which is a dangerous one, not only because it is hard, but because you don't have reference point, right? Like in the ultras that I do, I remember my Bromont Ultra 80 kilometers. I certainly remember that at night they ask you to have a light, right? Why? Because one of the good reasons is that there's flags, little pink flags that you see to see where you're going, right? And I mean, without that light, you don't see them. They're reflectant, these little flags. So that was essential to finishing the race. But what's dangerous in the entrepreneurial race is that there's more noise than like good advice. So yeah, basically, I don't know, my treadmill was making weird noise. What that means is that it's a hard race. So like the equivalent in real life would be like Bromont Ultra, but without the flags. Not only is it an incredibly hard race, but you can get lost, you can get dehydrated and not have food, and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, okay, the hardness of it, you can't do much about it. You can try to understand the beast and so forth, but to have potential reference points along the race, you really need to associate yourself with peers. I don't believe much in the concept of mentors. I believe way more in peers, because peers are also mentors. You're never equal. Even if someone is your age and is a founder in your niche, like, you might have drastically different skill sets. So it's quite important not only to listen to podcasts and read the books, but yeah, associate yourself with people and clean off the shit data, which is omnipresent. Most CEOs and founders that I know, once you team up with them, which is probably the closest to reality that you'll get, you even need to filter their own conclusion and the pieces of data they feed you, because most of it is wrong. Most of it is littered with defectuous mental models. They think they've made it that far because of X, but It's very much because of why. And having the arrogance and the stamina and the acumen to say that takes a very, very long time. In my case, I interviewed more than 2,000 CEOs for my podcast. And even that is pretty much surface level info, right? I filter these CEOs into masterminds. I do round two with some of them. I cross correlate that data with books, with other podcasts, and so forth. So it's a multi-layered, complex filtering slash funnel system that allows me to every once in a while get a golden nugget in terms of info and make sense out of it. Then what I'll do, I'll take that nugget and I'll test it right in my business. And even then, if you get a fit with that golden nugget, doesn't mean it's the holy grail and it's scalable and it will be applicable in other situations. So it is a very, very complex problem. And a business is not that simple, you know. Life itself is an incredibly tough problem, which is why I believe AGI will be incredibly helpful in connecting yourself to the cloud, removing the human bias out of our thinking and conclusions and decisions. Now, I got really complex and somewhat scientific in that thinking, but I think the basic steps is, yeah, if I look back at my journey, probably starting with a couple of business books, then educating myself a lot with podcasts, right? A/B testing these strategies to the market, and eventually starting your own podcast. And then using that podcast to filter members into a mastermind. And then with enough numbers, with enough good questions and A/B tests, you will start getting fundamental truths in business. And that might take you some time, depending on how long you will take to set all of that up. My clients, they probably take a couple months to do that, but most human beings, and certainly myself, took me years and years. And that's very important. If you're going for scale, right? And as most people are going for luck and a quick exit and, oh, I won the business lottery. That's what most people are going for. The next post is somewhat contrarian. I don't like it that much. But yeah, here it is. Sometimes I believe that adding spice to my own thinking and social media can be judicious. But yeah, because there's obviously a reverse to that post. Basically, I was reflecting on the fact that during ultras, I don't like people cheering up for me and being like, oh, well, not cheering up for me, like telling me that there's very few kilometers left, right? Falta poco, they say in Spanish. And yeah, I don't like that for many reasons, but I think the main reason is that I'm just like vitamin, calorie, and mineral depleted. And I'm just like this angry being that is like, don't talk to me. This energy saving machine, sort of, yeah, tired monkey, tired apex predator, just being like, yeah, don't talk to me. But yeah, the reasons I outlined in this post was that most people, yeah, they don't even fucking know how much kilometer there's left, you know. Like once a guy told me like, oh, there's a little bit left in my 80K race, and there was 30 kilometers left. So yeah, 30K is a lifetime, by the way, in an 80K race. Then the second reflection point is that I like pain. You know, I'm not here to be comforted. Although I like seeing my wife at the end of the race. She's like comforting, you know, she's like always been this motherly presence, sort of, not consciously, but yeah, anyway. And yeah, in these races, well, my last race, I was pretty like in a meditative state. So I think I was doing well mentally, and it didn't need like extra comforting. I was just like in a good spot. Although, yeah, and maybe another reason I can think of is I'm slightly I don't like the word autistic, but yeah, like in most of the meaning of the word, I'm a bit autistic and introverted, believe it or not. So I don't like when people like make unwanted contact with me, and that comes from a cold email guy, which is very ironic. But life is full of irony. But yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm in my own bubble and don't disrupt me. Anyway, I don't think that post was that good, but I just put it out there. And the lesson here is that, yeah, even when you're unsure, just like hit the publish button. Some posts that I thought were shit, like got me multiple likes. Some posts that I thought were genius got me like 0 likes. So yeah, just put it out there in the market. My LinkedIn audience definitely not like geniuses as I would like them to be, but and I realized that because I put some lowball questions the other day. My LinkedIn poll was like, "Hey, do you believe in remote working?" You know, like I've been remote working for the past decade, and there was still like a very heated debate in that. It's like, sure, okay. Okay, this next pose, yeah, progress usually starts with discomfort. Yeah, that's, I think it's true for me. For example, I always hate the best friends that I get in this life at first. And, I doubt them because I still see them as alphas. But yeah, like, not sure if there's much to say on that one. The next one was a bit interesting. It's like, are you a workhorse or are you aristocracy being pulled in the carriage? I guess I want them to be the workhorse and not the aristocracy. And I wrote aristocracy, so people might not have understood that one. Aristocracy. Let's see if I got more golden nuggets for you here. I published a whole bunch of shorts, and the LinkedIn algo just doesn't like my ass. Yeah, I'm definitely shadow banned, post way too much, and not woke enough to get all these views, it seems. Do I get the success that I deserve? Hell no. Am I bothered by it? Heaven no. Machine that keeps crunching, I'm all in. So yeah, this is very much chip on the shoulder stuff. I think it's important to have a chip on their shoulder to succeed. I've definitely seen it in all the CEOs that I've talked to, this ambition thing. I think most people are just comfortable being comfortable. Not chasing something, and that's a fundamental difference. Like I think, yeah, the serotonin is derived by high achievers by chasing something. And by the way, you don't realize it much in the race because you don't see anyone running next to you as a founder, right? It's very lonely. So yeah, self-consciousness, observing yourself, your thoughts, quite important. I'm gonna put the last one here as I need to go to the gym. Plus, I'm not seeing anything that good on my LinkedIn as of late. Uh, yeah, I think that one is quite good. It's like, doesn't matter if you've been grinding for 10 to 20 years and haven't achieved shit yet. Like it's much more about like, do you still have hope? Do you still have it into you? Do you still have the drive to make it happen? Some people lose hope after 3 years as founders, a restaurant owner or bakery owner, boom. They had a dream, they tried it, and they understood that it was a world of pain. They didn't like it, boom, end of their dream. Now they're gonna retire like an average ass. Some people lose it after 3 days. I mean, like, take an employee, for example. Most employees, they never really were motivated by getting out of their comfort zone to fetch it. All they want is the food in the mouth, spoon in the mouth. Like we said in the ultra running world, like 99% don't ever make it to the starting line. So yeah, like having hope and having dreams is the first step. And I think that's important to mention. Most of people forget that cheesy stuff, right? That cliche stuff. Notice your wins and double down on them. I think that's also an easy principle that most forget. Um, well, I certainly forget that myself as a busy CEOs. I certainly notice my laws, but yeah, observe, be conscious in your business, like what's working and can it be scaled? Sometimes it's as simple as that, to have a high performance day vs a low performance day. Okay, I'll finish up with that one. Promise, guys. Again, it's probably cliche stuff, but I think it's so much value in such a few words, which is always my objective, like being energy efficient. Life won't get easier, but you will get harder. Life won't get easier, but you will get harder. Like a lot of people, they view life as this tough thing, and yes, objectively, life keeps on getting tougher until I don't know, your rich dad dies and you get like this big inheritance check in 20 years from now. But that's fucking bullshit. Um, Life keeps on getting harder. The nature of the market, right? Like this capitalist system, we're into it. You can't get away from it. You can try to go on a desert island and surf, but even that, capitalism, it pollutes the environment. So less fishes, more storms, more dangers. This world keeps on getting harder. But guess also who's getting harder? You. That's human nature. You're part of this world. You're constantly evolving. You're constantly adapting to situations. And I think it's very much worthwhile to understand that mental model that you're constantly getting harder yourself. So don't think like life is this hard thing that's unachievable. Don't think you're at impossible level, impossible mode, and that you can't do shit. Like you're very much capable. You're very much a human being. Human nature is into you, and that means that you're capable of adapting too. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and happy Sunday.